Can I tell you what's my biggest pet peeve? It's no longer being told or getting, the Happy New Year wish post January 4th, 5th. I don't want to be that guy. Look, you see someone for the first time, on January 16th. All right, yeah, you're nice. Happy New Year. Can I tell you what's an even bigger pet peeve of mine? Happy New Year's. Why do people say that? Happy New Year's. What is that? That's horrible English. Oh, I hate it. It's a huge pet peeve.
And with that, we welcome everyone to the show you didn't think you were going to get, the 2024 MMA Prediction Show. And I'm going to cross boundaries here on January 30th and wish you a happy new year, Ariel Helwani. Welcome back to Post Wrestling.
First of all, happy New Year's to you and yours on this January 30th. I've been waiting for that happy new year. There I was, probably started around, I don't know, the 15th or so of December, checking the email, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, then we get into the new year, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. A lot of things going on. And, happy to break the news because I got a lot of questions, believe it or not. I got a lot of inquiries. When's it going up? When's it happening? When's it being recorded? I'm not one to invite myself onto other shows. I'm sitting here loving all the content. Kudos to you and Wei, Brandon, the entire team, Kate from Montreal. I enjoy the content very much. You guys are killing it. And I just sort of felt like, maybe my services weren't needed anymore. I don't know how many years we've been doing this. But that email never came. The infamous email never came. And so I had sort of come to the conclusion that it was a nice run, but all good things come to an end. And now here we are. We're back on January 30th. Now, so much has happened that we could have predicted if we had done this on January 1st, but nevertheless, still a solid 11 months left.
I figure no better time than the present to keep the tradition going. This is actually the 12th anniversary of the MMA Prediction Show. You and I have bounced around companies and affiliations like ping pong balls, but here we are, independent, on our own, and we've made it. Here we are, Ariel.
We've made it. Now, do we address the elephant in the room? Like, why this? Like, I mean, do we shoot? Do we break the fourth wall? Do we just pretend like none of this ever happened?
No, we got to get it all out.
Okay. I thought you said no, like we're not going to address it.
No, we absolutely can. And we're
going to have a microphone in our hands, uninterrupted, no commercial breaks.
No commercial breaks, no censoring. This is just how it's going to be. We're going to no leashes, okay? We're going to just get right into it, okay? That's me inviting, okay? To just whatever.
And by the way, the leash comment might have been the best thing to happen to us because maybe if you don't use that word, this doesn't happen. Is that fair?
Didn't even cross my mind, but yes, we did have a connection over this entire ordeal, and so we will go backwards to. Do you want to start at last year's prediction show? Is that
it's your show? It's your show.
Well, Ariel, you are the co-pilot here as well. So February comes, and you are in the eye of the storm, I would say. Elimination Chamber weekend in Montreal. Also a very cold weekend in Montreal. It was a literal storm, maybe figurative on your front. And that Friday night, I am there in the Bell Center, sitting with Wei Ting, and all of a sudden, Ariel Helwani appears on screen, on Fox, in the audience. To my surprise, to many people's surprise. I mean, you really
an old school pro wrestling surprise.
Yes. And I believe you and I communicated via text that weekend, and then you are there back on Saturday for Elimination Chamber, which is the Roman Reigns Sami Zayn match. Afterward, I think we saw each other at the press conference, as I recall. Yes. And this is also Friday night was the back and forth with Tony Khan, correct? That was the Friday.
Yes.
That was the Friday.
Yes.
So Monday, I think we spoke on the Friday, and then on the Monday, I spoke about it on our show as well. And you heard the comments, and I think you weren't. I think you were not upset. I wouldn't say that would be the reaction I got from you, but you shared your feedback with me, which I thought was completely fair.
Well, I think I would say I was bummed, like I was bummed. And rather than keep my thoughts to myself, we go way back. I consider you one of my closest friends in this business. I think we share a lot of similarities. We've had ups and downs, you know, professionally in this business. We've been there for each other. We've supported each other. And I think we have a great connection. I mean, I don't even remember the first time I think we met was 2007, right? When you extended the invitation to be on Fight Network Radio with Mauro Ranallo. I've said to you in the past, I felt like that invitation was the apex of my career. So I wasn't looking to, just hold a grudge and, kind of just like be like, screw those guys. I love you guys. And none of that changed. And the reason why I reached out was because I love you guys, because I think so highly of you. And I was bummed because if we take an even greater step back, we had talked on the prediction show of last year, January of 2023, about when I did the voice,
Daniel Cormier voiceover.
yeah, the Extreme Rules VO package prior to Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins, refereed by Daniel Cormier. And again, correct me if I didn't say all of this, but I know at one point I told you all of this.
Do you want to hear the clip?
Oh, wow. We have the clip. Okay. Sure. Go ahead.
I've learned. Okay. I've learned from you to be ready. So it's about a minute. This is from last year's prediction show, and the context we are talking about the video package from Extreme Rules that Ariel just mentioned from the prior October.
They asked me to do that, and I said right away that I didn't want to get paid for it. That I was just, here's the difference. Like I'm a lifelong pro wrestling fan, right? This reminds me of my childhood. To hear myself or to be a part of this is a bucket list thing, right? For someone like yourself. I don't consider myself a wrestling journalist like you, like Way, like Sean Ross Sapp, like Meltzer, like Brian. I don't consider myself a wrestling journalist. Even when I do the sit downs, I think that I am practicing journalism. I think that I'm interviewing, all that stuff. But as you know, I don't cover the wrestling beat. And I don't really have an interest in covering the wrestling beat. By the way, initially they said, you're silly, take the money, why wouldn't you? And I was like, no, I just feel better about this because I have the experience of blurring those lines. Mm-hmm. I would never do it in MMA. I feel very strongly about that. And there have been times where I'm like, should I just stop having, who am I answering to here? But this is just a thing that I don't want to blur these lines. Okay. In pro wrestling, I don't view myself in the same way. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know if that disappoints people or even even how you feel about that. But I don't view myself as a pro wrestling journalist. I do think that I like I said, I practice journalism when I'm asking questions and I try to take it very seriously. Like the Triple H interview, I'm very proud of it. But I didn't feel like that was breaking any rule because I just don't view myself as a wrestling journalist.
Okay, so that is the clip that you had outlined.
You know what's so crazy about that clip? You can literally play that clip after February. And I feel like it was the same thing that I said on my show. And I guess that's why I was ultimately bummed, because to take a step back, they asked me to do it. And, there have been other things thrown around. I have not made my relationship with Nick Khan a secret, right? So we have this relationship. I can't do anything about that. We work together. I mean, the guy knew how much I got paid. He was my agent. And then he goes off and does his thing. And I think he's doing a great job. And so things were thrown around. And I always said that I didn't want to get paid because of this hard, fast rule. And I didn't want to do anything either. And then I did the Extreme Rules thing because it just felt fun. And then I remember I was in Buffalo with my family and I was watching it on my phone. And I remember this feeling that I was like, wow, because I don't sound as good as I sound when I do those packages, like the Extreme Rules one and the Elimination Chamber one. They put some magic on there with my voice. And I was like, I've been growing. I've watched this stuff since I was 5 years old. Like WWE, they're among the best in sports and entertainment in terms of the production and the pre-fight or the pre-match hype videos and all that stuff. And just the feeling of seeing my name and hearing my voice and all that stuff just gave me something. And so I think I said to you on that show, or maybe I said to other people, that that feeling was such a high and was so much fun that I said to myself, if the opportunity ever came around, I don't think I would have this hard, fast rule, because I don't consider myself a wrestling journalist per se. I consider myself a journalist who happens to really like wrestling and practices journalism when I do these interviews from time to time. And so, you know, they're coming to Montreal. They reach out about this. And initially it was just do the package. I wrote that thing in, like, no joke, 15 minutes. It just all came out because it's like from the heart, right? It's about Montreal. It's about my city. It's about the guys I grew up watching and admiring. And then the other part of it was like, do you want to just, come to the event? And then that was it. Um, and then it snowballed into doing a couple of other things. And as I said, that time I did get paid because I did feel like, okay, I'm helping out, and I don't want to, like, stick to these rules for who and for what. And I don't think it affects me and my journalism in MMA or boxing or anything like that. And so that was it. And then when I heard you guys talking about it, obviously I understood where you were coming from. But as I said to you privately, I felt like you guys were not listening to what I had said a month earlier, and also kind of projecting your own beliefs and ethics onto me. And like I said, just recently, I've turned down doing something for both MMA and a boxing promotion. I stick to this rule. I don't want to change that rule. But when it comes to pro wrestling, I just don't feel the same. Maybe because it's non-traditional sports, maybe because I was a fan as a kid. I don't know, but I don't feel the same. I haven't done anything since. Nothing has come up. And I don't know if I'll ever do anything since. I'm not against it. It just, for whatever reason, it's not something that I'm seeking per se. And so I was just kind of bummed because it's one thing for, like, some guys who don't know me to talk about this stuff and criticize my, like, use my place in MMA and combat sports and then apply that to being a guy who got paid by the promotion. But I feel like we know each other, and about the ups and downs that I've been through. And I was just bummed about that. And not to say that you guys were wrong. You're obviously allowed to express however you want to feel. And I don't think that I said to you, like, anything that was disrespectful or anything like that. But I just wanted to get it off my chest because we're friends and because I respect you guys so much. And it was a high. And then I had to read all this crap about me. And I was like, including, the tweet from Tony. And I was bummed that, like, that stuff was ruining my moment, because this was a big personal moment, my hometown and all that stuff.
I get that very much. And I'm definitely coming at it from sort of my view. Like, I'll just state, and it's not specific to you, it's in general. I'm grappling with a lot of the blurring of the lines in media as just in and of itself, that we're seeing. That I think the industry is changing, the kind of rules are changing. And I honestly look at you as someone that has, like, I've just from afar watched how you have somewhat, like, adapted. I think 10 years ago, a fighter that decides to just go off on you, I think you're biting your tongue and just feeling that's not my place to come back. And I think now you're going to be much more vocal. And I don't think that is a problem. I think sometimes there does need to be that kind of standing up for yourself, that I'm happy that you have done as well. When it came to that weekend, um, I guess I always view you first and foremost as a reporter. And when I said that it was sort of just looking at both, I understand you're not a day-to-day wrestling reporter, but I do feel that you have reported on stories, and people do look at you, I think, as an authority. Maybe not on day to day with wrestling, but someone that does have sources, that is trusted. And that's what I was grappling with myself. And I had this conundrum of, this is like, you were a big story that weekend. And it was sort of, do I just sidestep this one? And it's just, I have a personal relationship with this guy. It's very hard to uh, share my thoughts on someone that people know I am friends with, but is also a news story. I tried to be as fair as I could. I hope people thought I was fair about the situation, but I also understand what it's like to get, like, this mountain of criticism. And I would hope you wouldn't lump me in with, like, some of the more awful things that probably you were subjected to, that I don't.
No,
Um,
I only reached out to one person. I might have tweeted back at people here and there, but, like, on a personal level, I think it was a voice note because I wanted you to hear my voice and not
yeah.
just read something. I only reached out to one person because I only cared to reach out to one person. A lot of people said a lot of stupid stuff, and again, this is all part of evolving and growing up. I used to do things out of fear of what people would say, and you can't do that anymore. And to your point, media, journalism, all that stuff has evolved, has changed, and it's important for us to evolve and change. But it's also important to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. When I did the Fox thing with the UFC for 5 years, I felt incredibly uncomfortable. It's the biggest regret of my career, and I hope it remains that way. And I have, the emails of me begging to please change this. And so I never want to make that mistake again. I ultimately don't think that I don't think that I do in pro wrestling, whatever it is I do, I don't think I do it like I do in MMA or even boxing a little bit more these days. Monday on the show, I spoke about, the Vince McMahon situation, allegations, lawsuit, whatever you want to call it. And I think that I said what I would say about if it was a person in MMA or in boxing, horrific, disgusting. If these allegations are true, not only does he have to be done with WWE, he's going to have to face pretty hefty consequences. I talked about the press conference. I talked about all these things. And so I feel like I'm able to do that. But again, if you listen to my shows, 5% is pro wrestling, and it's usually just kind of from like a fan perspective. And so ultimately, you guys are allowed to say whatever you want about me, but I just felt I was kind of confused, or I don't know if confused is the right word. Like here I am, like, I've always been a pro wrestling fan. I have opportunities to kind of flirt with the business, and to be in Montreal, my dad's dropping me off, and I'm in the Bell Center, and it's a Montrealer in the main event, and like I'm with Paul Heyman in the back, and I've never been backstage like that before, and it was honestly one of the best weekends of my career. And I just felt like all these people were trying to ruin that weekend for me. And they are entitled to, because I'm a public person and people could say whatever they want. But I felt some sort of way about it. And that's why, like, I'm sitting in the back and I do the hit on Smack. I've never been on, WWE programming live before. And that thing materialized in 2 minutes. And I open Twitter and I see a tweet from Tony Khan. I'm like, I'm not going to let this fucking guy, shit on me on my moment. And my initial reaction was, I'm not going to reply. But then it bothered me that he was trying to ruin my moment. And so I did reply, and I know you didn't like my reply, but in my mind, I was like, fuck that guy. I've never, been unfair to them. I said I didn't like the interview. Okay, boo-hoo. It was a crap interview. Any objective person would say it was a crap interview, and maybe I'm to blame for that. I feel like I've been very positive about AEW. There were times that I said great things about AEW. The first story I ever pitched to HBO Real Sports, sorry for going long here, was a profile on Tony Khan. The first story that I pitched to Tim Walker, the coordinating producer of Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, was a story on Tony Khan, because I was so impressed with what he's built and what he continues to build. And I have so much respect for it. Ultimately, if you're wondering why the story never came to fruition, they said it was a bit of a conflict of interest because it's all under the kind of Warner umbrella, HBO, TNT, all that stuff. That was the first thing I ever pitched. So it just kind of struck a nerve, and I was like, yeah, screw that. So anyway, don't have to rehash the whole thing. Nothing's come of it. I don't think it has affected my place in this media world. And actually, as of right now, I don't have a contract with TNT or BT. I wasn't at Royal Rumble. I don't know if I'm going to be at WrestleMania. No plans at the moment. And so maybe that was the beginning of the end, John. Maybe I screwed up, and I will never get to do anything in the wrestling business again. And that's okay, because I got my one weekend in Montreal that I'll never forget.
Are you're open to it though?
Open to doing more? Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I have to say, I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And as I get older, I want to do things that are fun. And I try very, very hard to hold myself to a certain standard in MMA, combat, and even like basketball stuff. And this is like the one time where I said, I'm going to let my hair down and just have fun. And it was a blast, honestly, like being in the back, just seeing the whole thing, how it ran, and getting to like be around that whole. And I mean, my thing was like this, right? Like, what did I do? I did 2 hits, and then I was sitting in the front with George St. Pierre. Like, what the hell am I doing here? So yes, I would be open to it. Am I like seeking it? Am I doing something like that? No. But if they call me with something, and there have been times where they've called me and it just didn't feel right. But if they call me with something that feels right, I'm not going to say no just because I'm going to hold myself to the same rules that I hold myself to in other sports. And again, someone like yourself may think that that's crazy. And I would say it's almost like I'm a somewhat religious person. I practice Judaism and whatnot, and everyone has a different sort of set of rules. And so, like, I don't eat kosher, but I pray every morning. I drive on Saturday, but my brother doesn't. This and that. So, like, I think in life you have to have kind of like this a la carte menu. Whatever feels good for you and your soul and your heart works, and that particular stance works for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I hope
like
I didn't disappoint you by saying that.
no, you did not. I look at you as someone that I do have an enormous amount. Like, I do look at you as somebody that is like, these are not just like snap judgments or decisions. I know you put thought into a lot of this when, like, not to rehash all the stuff you endured at like Fox, but like when you disclosed that, to me, it was like a non-issue to me in terms of it never at all was something where like I knew how credible you were and you disclosed this and some people had negative things to say about it. I was not, because I knew the type of reporter you were and that you were not going to be compromised, even though like you were in this untenable situation for yourself as well. Like that to me that's just knowing you and seeing how you report in real time and the respect level you have. And I guess for me, it's like, again, I think when you initially turned down, like just being paid for like a voiceover, for instance, like there was like that hesitancy for you. And I think that
Yeah.
you've reached a certain level.
Yeah, no, the difference I'm telling you, the difference is when I heard it, I was like, this is a great feeling. And I'm looking for great feelings in life. And I said, this was silly. This was silly to have this stance. So that's why I changed my stance. Because no one wants to work for free. I'm happy to do things from time to time. Like, I'm not getting paid for this because I'm happy to do it. But if it's like a thing, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have ultimately, I think we all have to answer to ourselves and our family. And I just felt that way. And again, I will say what probably, hurt me the most was that I felt like people were saying that this was going to affect the way I cover MMA or any other sport. And I just view pro wrestling a little differently and my place in it or whatever you want to call it. And so that I felt was a little bit unfair. I'm not necessarily saying that you said that, but again, there was like an avalanche of stuff. I honestly couldn't believe that people cared so much. Like this was a gigantic weekend for WWE. Like what a match that was, right? What a storyline that was. And like in total, I was probably on camera for 75 seconds in total, being generous. And people were so fired up about this. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. But it's, I guess, somewhat controversial because Tony got involved and whatnot. And can I just say, like, and it's the same stance that I have with any of my quote unquote enemies. Like if Tony was here, I think Tony and I have a lot in common. And I'm kind of bummed that we have this sort of weird relationship because, and maybe I'm to blame for that. We're both around the same age. We both grew up pro wrestling fans. We're both sons of immigrants. I only wish them. You've listened to me long enough in pro wrestling, right? Or sorry, in MMA. I'm always rooting for number 2, number 3, number 4, right? I think it's important for the athletes, for the business. I think WWE is doing great things because AEW is there. It pushes them to go out there and really strive. I would say they had a lull period when there was no competition. And I would say the same with the UFC. So I don't wish anything bad. MJF is probably my favorite wrestler in the world. I love that guy, truly. And I love everything he stands for. So it's all very silly. And it's also funny, like that now I've gotten this reputation in wrestling as this sort of like anti-AW guys, because I get these freaking like I say anything whatsoever, and it's like just like fall. I didn't respond to the Vince stuff fast enough, and I was like, "Look at Ariel, crickets." I was like, "Yo, man, I was doing a show on Thursday. I'm like, I'm not day to day. It took me a while to get to reading it to even seeing. I'm actually trying to be less on Twitter. I think you'd be happy to hear that. So, and people were going crazy about that. I was like, wow, I guess this is what it feels like. So I feel like I'm living like double lives in terms of the way people view me in MMA and the way people view me in pro wrestling.
Well, let's to cap this off.
Yes.
While I was going back to grab that clip from the from the prediction show, we also this was also just a sidebar. You did drop an exclusive 1 year ago.
I'll do the interviews. I do the stuff for BT. I'm sort of a hired gun for them. I did re-sign with them, by the way, so that is good. I'll be doing Rumble
is
stuff.
that an exclusive?
That is an exclusive, yeah. So I'm excited about that.
Are you going to Inglewood in April for WrestleMania?
Oh yeah. Will you be there?
I will not, I don't think. But I am going to Montreal in February for Elimination Chamber, which should be a very... Let me know if you go.
Wow.
You didn't let me know.
No, but honestly, you think that...
I know it was a last second deal. I know when we did this prediction show, this was...
Last second is being kind. I think I left on a Friday, and I think I found out on a Wednesday of that week. Yeah. So...
and you wrote the thing in like an hour?
No, honestly, like 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's because I've done a few of those. Excuse me. Sorry. I've done a few of those back in the day, Fox, etc. And I had this idea. And so when they reached out to me, I was like, oh, I could do the same thing that I did for Extreme Rules, but this one really hits, home a lot harder. And so it just flowed, and they liked it, and they put all the bells and whistles. Again, it was pretty damn cool to be in the Bell Center, and there's a voice, a package being voiced by me, Montrealer, about Montreal. I would have kicked myself from now until I'm 85 if I turned that down.
Well, we are going to get into the predictions that were made by one Ariel Helwani.
Wait, we didn't address one last thing.
What's that?
Okay, so all this happens. We have our back and forth. We're fine. I'm not sure if we talked since then. My question is, why wasn't I invited?
In all honesty, it was a really slam period for me. But I won't lie. No,
I don't believe this.
That did go into the thinking, but I am not going to deny the fact that you've communicated less with me since this time period. Is that fair?
I don't know. Is that fair? You tell me.
The WhatsApp wasn't getting a big workout for those couple of months. I'm just going to say that, okay? Well, I've reached out every now and then to test the temperature, and you always
every time you reached out, do I always respond?
Yes, but
was it in a cold way?
Just a little one-way traffic. That's all I'm going to say in terms of the reach out.
Oh, you're saying you reached out more than I reached out?
Yes.
Wow.
So I didn't want to put you into the position where you would not either you would want to come on begrudgingly or just flat out say no. So I kind of left it dangling. I will own that part. Okay. I probably should have reached out sooner. I did assume.
And so we've just uncovered everything. Let's just go to the last step.
We can turn it around on me. That's fine.
No. And then you have a moment, right? Where you're now me in Montreal in February of 2023. And I appreciated you reaching out. Again, I didn't really think, I don't know. It's put yourself in my shoes, February of 2023. You do the show, you probably see a few things, but when you're the subject of the avalanche, it hits a lot differently. So I saw that and I was like, John did nothing wrong. He asked the question. Dana picked on one word. He does what a great person a brilliant person in his position does. They use that word to their advantage and, off to the races. I didn't know about anything else that happened to you. And then you reached out, and then I kind of looked into it a little more, and I felt bad, but I think you handled it just fine in that moment, and I think you've handled it even better in the aftermath. And so that's why I'm thankful that you used that word, because I don't know if we're sitting here talking if you didn't use that word, if you used latitude.
Well, if I had used latitude, but I certainly going through that. Definitely did think of you, and probably you having your own issues like that over the years in MMA or pro wrestling for that matter. And that it was eye-opening to a degree, just like the size of it, because I left that feeling like I didn't think twice really about the interaction, that it was anything noteworthy. It's okay, he was, not crazy about my question, but I didn't think to I asked him a bunch of, two questions afterwards about WWE related things and the ESPN deal, and was okay. And then the next day, like this just avalanche dropped. And, like you said, I think the idea of like, once you can get to a space where you care less about what other people think, and as long as you are comfortable with how you handled things, I think that's a great place to be when you can reach it. And, but yeah, certainly I did think of, what you've been through, and I'm very proud of the stuff that you have come through, and that, I don't think it's by any stretch that there are a lot of people who would not have been able to persist at the level you have. You have not just existed in MMA, you have thrived in this space, and you have had a lot of challenges. And I've always said, like, the amount of respect I have, the fact that you've navigated stuff, many people would have just taken off and moved on. You have outside options, I think, beyond MMA. And here you have stayed in this position and only grown a greater following. I think that's beyond impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. Do you wish you would have done anything differently?
No, I don't. Honestly, like, I 100%, if I had not brought up that question at the beginning, I think I would have felt much worse that I had this opportunity and didn't do it. In complete like, I certainly could have, like, stayed on the subject. I just felt like in the moment, it was like, the question was essentially like, is there a line?
Right.
And honestly, I thought that, like, I had gotten out the question. It's only when I went back to listen that, like, he cut me off. But I mean, he answered the question that I was setting out to ask. So when he's at the end, like, what's your question? It was like, okay, you've answered it, and I could continue this, and I'm just going to get more of this impassioned speech from him. But in my mind, I'm like, I do want to get to these other questions. And in the moment, I'm just thinking I've gotten this answer. He's made it very clear that he doesn't view there any line to be. So I haven't really scrutinized, like, what could I have done differently? Like, I just feel sure. Could I have used a different word than leash? I could have, but I'm not kicking myself over using that word.
No,
Like,
because that's a perfectly normal word to use there. He just latched onto it and spun it, which is something that he's very good at doing.
he's very good in the moment.
Yeah. Oh,
Good.
he's brilliant. I mean, think about how many hours he's been sitting up there talking to us. So I think everyone understood your question, and I think it was a fine question. He just did a great job of using it to his advantage, which he has every right to do. I wish you would, we could have heard a little bit more and less focus on the word, because he knows exactly what you were trying to ask. But this is the world that we're in.
Well, on that note, are you ready to go into?
I am ready.
We're going to go through the 2023 predictions, and so I've broken these up. Do you want to hear the ones you got correct or incorrect first? Which do you want to go through?
Let's go correct. And by the way, was it always called the MMA Prediction Show?
I think so. I think I always
see, me being the neurotic Nelly that I am, I thought that you put in MMA. I thought it was just a prediction show, and then I thought you put in MMA to let people know, hey, we're not doing wrestling predictions with the wrestling shill over here, okay?
Well, there will be some wrestling predictions.
Okay,
here,
perfect.
But,
perfect. All right, you called it MMA prediction. Maybe it should be combat sports prediction.
Maybe we should evolve it out of that. But you know what? We got to use the MMA Ariel Helwani. It's great.
Fair.
Search engine optimization, as they tell me. Come on, Ariel.
Fair.
Okay, so here are the correct ones for Ariel. I know you're going to be thinking about this. You had a good year. Okay, I'm just going to start it off with that note, okay?
I was wondering. I was kind of left.
We have percentages. Okay, we're going to compare this. Okay, we'll compare it to your all-time year and see how this one stacks up. One scenario: the XFL has a second season. You said likely. They did go ahead with their 2023 season, which was won by your favorite, the Arlington Renegades, and then merged with the USFL to create the UFL. So I'm going to give you the correct on that one, because the XFL is continuing, just in the form of a merged league with the USFL.
Yes.
The Mark Kerr documentary / trailer comes out. You said unlikely. Did not. Now we got an update on this film that I stated I don't think this film is going to see the light of day. So that was my commentary on it. It may, in fact, see the light of day with 51-year-old Dwayne Johnson playing Mark Kerr.
Wait, what's the update? What's the update? I didn't hear an update.
That Dwayne Johnson has been cast and that it's got a distributor now with A24.
Oh,
yes. This was
wow. I missed that. And by the way, I don't think it's a doc, right? It's a feature film.
It's a feature film. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't even know why I called it documentary here, but nonetheless, it was, yes, did not come out the trailer. So we still wait for that. Power Slap is renewed for a second season on TBS. Ariel called it unlikely. Did not happen. Do you realize we did the MMA Prediction Show right before the Dana White New Year's Eve video came out?
No way. When did we do it? We did it late December.
We must have done it like that January first week of January, but I think there was a gap between when the video came out and New Year's Eve. There was some, like we might have done it on whatever it was, the Monday maybe, or not Monday. You would have had your show, but anyway, it was like within a day or so that video dropped. So it's like we're talking about Power
it's
Slap.
Possible we did it. You know why? Because I didn't have a show because that Monday was January 1st. And then the video came out that night. So we might have done it at like 1 p.m. that day. And then the video came out at night because I remember the video came out when I was watching Bills Bengals and then the DeMar Hamlin thing happened. So yeah, very possible.
Dana White and Gary Brecka of 10X Health Systems release a health and or fitness product. You scoffed at this and said unlikely. We did not get a product from Dana White and Gary Brecka.
Feels like we're getting one indirectly because every 2 seconds I go on Instagram and people are telling me about their 72-hour damn fast. So feels like they're responsible for all of this.
Yeah, they might have to disclose like what is it with these cold plunges and fasts. Nate Diaz has a boxing fight. Ariel says likely. Nate Diaz, in fact, put on the gloves and had his fight with Jake Paul the same night as SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Would you have been at SummerSlam if not for that card?
Yeah.
So we would have been together in Detroit that night.
Yeah, although that was the first pay-per-view post BT TNT switch.
Okay.
But I think that was the plan. Didn't go to Survivor Series, didn't go to Royal Rumble. I don't know what's going to happen. But yes, I think I would have been there.
Bo Nickel goes undefeated in 2023, which Ariel said likely, and he defeated Jamie Pickett and Valentine Woodburn at UFC 285 and 290, going 2-0 throughout the year. So Bo Nickel, lots of anticipation for his follow-up year after going undefeated.
Yes.
Gordon Ryan has an MMA fight. Ariel said no way. Gordon Ryan did not go near an MMA ring or cage. Okay, so this one you might have to clarify, and I gave this one to you. This is like tie goes to the runner rules. AJ McKee is a Bellator fighter by the end of 2023. So Bellator technically does exist. So
yeah,
I'm giving you this one that
hell yeah,
still there. Now this one you can really get in the weeds and explain this to folks that maybe don't quite understand. Kayla Harrison is a PFL fighter by the end of 2023. So if I go to different judges, like Kayla Harrison might say he got it. You said unlikely. If I ask Don Davis, does he have it? Can you break this one down?
Oh, so I said unlikely, huh?
You said unlikely that Kayla Harrison would be a PFL fighter by the end of 2023, which if we go by the term, she would not have been an MMA fighter or PFL fighter by the end of the year, correct?
Actually, no, it's wrong because to the best of my knowledge, the term was December 31st. And there was one fight left. So the reason why she told us in late November that this is her last fight is because she knew there was not going to be another fight in December, right? So it was whichever came first, December 31st or that second fight. So technically, I was wrong.
Well,
damn it.
I
was wrong by a day.
Off by one day. I mean, as close as you could come. That was one where I could not definitively state, and I was going to have to rely on you. PFL runs 2 pay-per-view events in 2023. You said unlikely. We got the one pay-per-view in November of 2023, which was noted not a pay-per-view ready product. Was ill-advised that they ran last year, but they came back for one pay-per-view. We will see if they get in there.
And it was also ill-advised.
Yes. Cain Velasquez teams with Daniel Cormier in a pro wrestling match. You said unlikely. Did not happen. Nothing with Daniel Cormier and WWE this past year, other than some interviews. TJ Dillashaw comes out of retirement. you did not see this one happening, and TJ Dillashaw remains on the sidelines with his MMA career on hold. Henry Cejudo retires again with the premise that he would come out of retirement and then retire again. You thought that was way too much movement for Henry Cejudo. You said unlikely. Correct.
Okay.
Pat McAfee leaves the WWE. So you said unlikely. And so this is very interesting because this man has been like attached in some way, shape, or form with WWE. That, I mean, he wrestled for WWE in 2023. He did guest spots on commentary. And now as we speak, I mean, this was legitimately surprising. He not only popped back at the Rumble, but he is now the full-time broadcaster on Raw with Michael Cole.
Incredible. What a gig he has there. He just pops in and out. Now, he showed up at the Rumble last year, I believe, in San Antonio, correct?
Yes, and he did commentary on that.
Yes, and I remember that because I was there. Did he show up at Mania?
He did the match with The Miz.
He did like a unannounced guest spot, right?
Yes.
Okay, but he didn't do commentary.
I don't think he did commentary at WrestleMania, but he did the match with The Miz.
When Miz was the host.
Yes.
And then was there anything else?
Throughout the year, he popped up on SmackDown one week with The Rock when College Game Day was nearby.
Right.
I don't know if he's popped up any other times beyond that. But
Yeah. Okay, so what did I say?
You said unlikely that he would leave the WWE.
Okay, I think I win.
I'm giving it to you because I think he's had like
his contract was never cut. I mean, he's an extended member of the family. They love him. He loves them. And I mean, it's great timing for him to come back now because obviously football season is wrapping up. I wonder what's going to happen in the fall because he has to go to game day and travel so much. I don't know how he does it, man, with the traveling.
He's still doing his daily show on top of this. And you're
not only that, I looked, he was there. He was there. He was, I think he was in studio yesterday, and I think he was in studio today, meaning he left Indy to go to Tampa, right? And then came back. I'm pretty sure he doesn't fly commercial. It doesn't matter. It's still exhausting because you're getting home. What time is Raw done? 11?
11 Eastern.
Yeah, by the time he gets on the plane, 12:31. How long is that flight? 3 hours? By the time you go to bed, like what? God bless. His work ethic is off the charts. So big coup. And then I saw, what is it? Wade Barrett and Corey Graves.
That's the report to be the team on SmackDown.
So Corey's going to be play-by-play?
Yeah, which, I mean, if you were listening to him like the last few months, I mean, he was paired with Kevin Patrick. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but I mean, Corey Graves kind of had to like double and like cover at times and was kind of doing like pseudo play-by-play. So I wonder if he looks at this as just a bit of a challenge to do something different. But yeah, it's like they desperately need play-by-play guys because Cole can only do so many shows.
Yeah.
And I guess they're going to test out Graves here, but they got
I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be good.
I'm curious to hear him. I don't think it's going to be, I think he's shown that he can adapt to that role. He will be the Sean O'Connell of pro wrestling potentially.
Or the Jimmy Smith.
Or the Jimmy Smith as well. How did you feel about Jimmy Smith?
In that role?
Yeah.
I actually thought he did a pretty good job. The thing is that I knew he wasn't a big pro wrestling fan before, and I think he was a little bit critical of it. So I think that some people never really forgot about that. But I don't think people realize how hard it is to go from the color guy to the play-by-play guy. Play-by-play is so hard. I can't even like fathom doing it. I don't think I'm good enough. It is just so tough. And especially for something like pro wrestling, which you're not well-versed in, and it's a lot of show and a lot of moving parts. I thought he did a pretty good job. What did you think?
But I thought Jimmy Smith was fine. I didn't think he was like the world's best wrestling broadcaster, but far from like he was fine. Like he was like especially when it came to calling like some of the submissions and stuff. I thought he was like very good in when he was in his wheelhouse and doing like that one of the like the fight pit matches I think that he called. It would have been the Cormier match, I'm guessing that he was involved with. So anyway, I thought he was like fine in the role.
You know what's interesting? I feel like for a long time SmackDown was the crown jewel, and now it's kind of shifting back to Raw. Right?
Well, it's, I think, going to be like SmackDown will get like a big push when it moves to USA, but all attention is going to be on the Netflix launch next January.
No, of course. But even now, I mean, I know they're getting ready for a year out. It just feels like Raw for a while was, I don't know, it was feeling like the B show, and now it doesn't feel like the B show anymore.
Bellator has a second card on CBS. So we were about a month out from the Fedor Emelianenko fight. They only had that February 4th card on CBS, no follow-up. And you noted one of the unsung heroes in MMA that kind of flew under the radar was the departure of Kelly Call from CBS.
Oh yeah. What a guy, Kelly. Yeah, only one. It's kind of weird. They did one and like right at the buzzer there, and then never again. And Scott was there for so long. What a bizarre end to that Bellator chapter.
Laura Sanko is part of a commentary broadcast for a UFC pay-per-view or fight night. You said likely, and we did get Laura Sanko on the broadcast, who's done a great job in the role as an analyst.
UFC is incredible at finding the right analysts. Like they've never had a stinker in there.
Chris Cyborg has more featherweight title fights in Bellator than Amanda Nunes does in the UFC. You said likely, and she did with one against Kat Zingano. Nunes, 0 featherweight fights. Will we ever see a featherweight fight in the UFC again? I'm guessing no.
I don't want to say never, but not for the foreseeable future.
Brock Lesnar is inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. You said unlikely. Man's not going to be going near any Hall of Fame for probably a long time. And did not go to the UFC Hall of Fame last year. The Nelk Boys host an alternate commentary broadcast on the Contender Series. You said unlikely. I know I put some of these joke ones in. This one I actually could have seen happening.
I can see. You just said that. I don't remember you asking me this. I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. I'm shocked that they haven't done it.
Just wait. He just hadn't thought of it yet.
Yes.
DraftKings pulls its sponsorship with the UFC. This was fresh off the James Krause story, which if you want the Ariel Helwani receipts should have its own kind of playlist on YouTube of when you've gone deep on some of these stories. The James Krause one might have been your finest when it came to piecing that whole story together. But you said unlikely.
That's all Connor. Connor Burke's producer. That's all him. He does a great job of getting that stuff.
And DraftKings stayed on board all year long with the UFC. Kevin Holland stops a crime from occurring. You said unlikely. Not to our knowledge did he stop any crimes in progress or preemptively.
Yeah, that gimmick kind of fizzled out. Huh? There was like a stretch of 5 in 2 months and then no more.
I thought it's a full year. There's got to be one somewhere in here. Conor McGregor and Artem Lobov settled their issues, releasing a non-alcoholic spritzer called Water Under the Bridge. Like you said, unlikely. They did not settle their issues. Have they even settled their lawsuit? Is it still ongoing?
That's a great question. I have to ask PT about that. I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
So I don't think they have, but I could be 1,000% wrong as well.
No water under the bridge, though. That we can
unfortunately kind of a bummer.
Definitively. Logan Paul wins any WWE championship. You said likely, and the United States Championship coming around his
almost
waist.
Lost it on Saturday.
Crown jewel. Did you hear Kevin Owens wrestled that match with a broken foot?
Come on.
Yeah.
What?
Per Big Dave. Yes.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. Paulo Costa wins the PFL middleweight tournament. You thought this was a unique scenario, but was unlikely. And no, he did not.
Didn't even fight
to the PFL. No, he had a very quiet 2023. Patty Pimblett appears on the MMA Hour. You said unlikely. No Patty Pimblett this past year, but we will see what happens in the new year. ESPN Plus raises its UFC pay-per-view price next December. You said unlikely, and this was like one of the first years they did not do the price hike that we've kind of just been accustomed to every January. And a segment of On the Nose exceeds 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 30 seconds. You said likely. You destroyed this multiple times. These are just some of the headlines of segments that went above that figure. Ariel Helwani weighs in on WWE buyout drama. What's next for Dustin Poirier? Patty Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson will steal headlines at UFC 296. What's next stop for MVP? How should UFC handle crude trash talk? And Ngannou disrespected by Fury. And your longest on the nose segment of the year, UFC heavyweight title being held hostage. 1 hour, 52 minutes, 48 seconds.
Wow. By the way, is there a playlist for those, or are you searching for them? How are you finding these?
Dude, I had to get my shovel out and search.
Oh my God, what a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I've definitely over the years tailored my questions to how hard is it going to be for me to fact check these at the end. Some of these are tough, dude. And the last one that you got correct, the Parlay Pals remain at 3 members all year long, that being GC, New York Rick, and Mysterious Frank. You said unlikely. Juliana Pena jumping on board, giving you this win. So
perfect.
The incorrect ones. It's a shorter list here. We'll power through these. We've got the Buffalo Bills making it to the Super Bowl. I've tried to refrain from these questions that I know you're not going to say unlikely, even though maybe deep down you've got to weigh things out. Vince McMahon does a sit-down interview. You said unlikely. Did do one on CNBC right after the merger with Ari Emanuel. And,
that's right.
I don't know if Vince McMahon will be doing any sit-downs ever again in a public setting.
Yeah, seriously.
Maybe we'll get into that later. One power slap contest takes place on a UFC broadcast. You know what? This is one I didn't even write down, likely or unlikely. I can't fathom that you said
no,
that this would have been incorrect. So I feel what you lost on the Kayla Harrison one, I'm giving you on this one. So I think that evens things out. Manny Pacquiao fights for Ryzen. You were optimistic on this happening.
They did bring him back.
They brought him back.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah.
Kayla Harrison, we went over that one. Paige Van Zant's bare knuckle / pro wrestling matches equal 1 or greater. You said likely. There was no in-ring competition involving Paige Van Zant.
Did she not fight? Did she not do bare knuckle?
She did nothing.
What happened to pro wrestling?
Just dropped it, it seemed like no follow-up after all those appearances. She had been training. I think it was with Gangrel. Just never pursued it. And I guess
and they never wrote her off.
Yeah, it was sort of just like they were putting a lot of attention on her, and then Dan Lambert left, and so did she. Remember they did that big angle with Masvidal laying out Jericho?
Yeah.
That went nowhere.
Nowhere.
JDS was involved there for a brief appearance.
Kayla showed up.
Yeah, they kind of just moved on. Donald Cerrone enters the UFC Hall of Fame. You said unlikely, but you said you could see it happening, but it's too soon. And they put him in the
I still, stand by that, but it's impossible to know with their rules.
Bellator, PFL, ONE, or Cage Warriors. One of these companies experiment with open scoring. You said likely, but did not happen in 2023. Jake Paul teams with Logan at a WWE event. You thought that was likely to happen, but we did not get the two teaming up in a match. Of all the McMahons in combat sports, the only one to have a match or a fight this year will be Sarah. You said likely, and Sarah McMahon had 2 fights, but Shane McMahon did take part barely in a wrestling match.
Was that an official match?
Bell rung and he tore his quad.
So did they really ring the bell?
It was technically a match, and then Snoop Dogg was in to clean up that mess. The quarterback in that situation.
He did an incredible job. Wow, did the bell ring?
Shane ruined it for you.
Did you go back? Did they actually ring the bell, or was it a schmazzle?
You know what? If we go to good old Wikipedia here, I feel it was this was
Wikipedia is our source.
Listen, they don't screw around here. We could go to Cage Match. Are you familiar with Cage Match?
No.
Let's look at Shane here. Do you think Shane McMahon will ever wrestle another match again, or are we?
My question is: does Shane McMahon show up on WWE TV ever again?
Shane McMahon?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no.
Wow.
I think not. I don't think we will ever see him.
Stephanie
either. Stephanie, I don't dismiss as a possibility.
Wow.
I mean, it could be a very. There's going to be a lot of fallout over all of this.
Sure. I just wonder in like 10 years. I feel like he comes back. They put him in the Hall of Fame or something.
Shane.
Yeah, Shane.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting of how.
Yeah, it's impossible to know.
They're just like the overall. Like I think Vince McMahon is just going to be completely erased at this point. Like I just
at least for now until the whole lawsuit plays out, right?
Yeah, I think even after that, I think it will. We have in 2022, I think many people thought there's no way he comes back from this. It's a lot of different circumstances now, but it is certainly one that it's hard to fathom happening. And then the last ones here were a sequel to the highly acclaimed children's book Mirth Meets Earth is released. Did we get a follow up? Is there a follow up?
No, working on it. Working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you maybe get like that 2-book deal, like John Moxley and Renee Paquette got? We could get Highway to Helwani and Mirth.
Wait, Renee
continues.
Paquette has a book?
She put out a cookbook a few years ago. It was
Oh,
the same publisher that. Did you ever read John Moxley's book?
I did. Yes, I enjoyed
Really
it.
good. I thought.
Yeah, I enjoyed
they
it.
were
I
both-
didn't realize it was like a package.
I think
deal.
it was like some package deal because it was the same publisher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
There
good
you have
idea.
So for the year, Ariel, 27 out of 38, which was good for 74%. This would be your highest performance since your golden year of 2019 when you hit 84%.
Wow.
Which is going to be a really tough percentage to hit. But you outpunted your coverage for the past 3 years, topping this. Last year, 72%. So a 2% gain this year. I would say like this would be at least I have the percentages here since 2017, and this would be your third highest after 80 and 84% in 2018 and 19, respectively.
What's my worst?
Of the ones I have listed here, it was 70% back in 2017. So I mean, you have you've never had like a blowout year.
Yeah. All right. Let's try to beat that.
So now we begin with a whole new year, new scenarios where Ariel, all he has to say is likely or unlikely. Again, for the aggregators out there, this is only speculation. There is no reporting behind this, unless Ariel wants to divulge anything. But these are all scenarios that he is hearing for the first time. So let us start off. We're going to start a little bit outside of the box. Don't know if you're aware, there's a federal election going on in the United States of America. This coming year. Happens to be an election year. One
I like
of
the new graphics, by the way.
You love that text. We won't call out the fact that I forgot to play them for the earlier segments, but nonetheless, one of the presidential candidates appears on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Ooh. Wow. I thought you were going to say the MMA hour.
I'm trying to avoid the MMA hour questions because I know you don't ever like to say unlikely to potential guests.
By the way, did I ever tell you that I was invited onto Trump's plane to interview him?
No. Oh, was this Affliction?
No. Like within the last year and a half. Yeah.
Definitely not. You have never told me
he
that.
was attending the NCAA Wrestling Championships. I think the finals were in Oklahoma last year. Anyway, I was invited. A guy who works for him used to work for the UFC and reached out and didn't work out. I'm going to say against my better judgment, I'm going to say likely.
Likely. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a crazy. Probably one candidate over the other, but
he had RFK on.
Yeah, you could certainly see it happening. Would you be averse to interviewing a politician that is in the midst of not to say Joe Biden or Donald Trump might be on next week, but you would be open to it, or would that be welcoming? I
would be open. I'm not a very political person, so I don't really. I think it's hilarious that people think that I'm like extremely left leaning when the vast majority of my family is quite right, but not right the way you think and the way it has become. Like my dad loved Stephen Harper when we were growing up, and Stephen Harper, and really the only basis for his decisions on who he likes and doesn't like is how they feel about Israel, and usually the right leaning politicians are pro-Israel. In any event, I would not be against it. I don't want to have, like, I don't want to be a part of someone coming on to spew hatred and rile people up. But if it's, the politics of the 1990s where everything seemed a lot more benign and innocent, then yeah, I have no problem with that.
Well, let me just say, you will provide a lot of content for a lot of YouTube channels out there that
if I did it,
if you step into the culture war, as I
oh my God, geez,
stepped into.
Oh, right. You know better than me.
Yeah. A live boxing fight is streamed on Netflix this year.
Wow. I feel like you know something by asking me such a pointed question.
I'm not stating I do know anything.
I'm going to say likely. I think they're going to get into things here. I think this is not a one-time thing with like, in terms of live sports, WWE is perfect. WWE is so perfect for Netflix. When the news happened and I took when it came out and I took a step back, I was like, it's almost shocking that none of us really thought that this was a possibility, because I could just see it being on the menu. It's sports, it's entertainment, it's live, it's 52 weeks, but it's control. They can, it's just so perfect. Anyway, yes, I think it happens.
Any thought, just to the average wrestling consumer in the US, that you do need Netflix, you do need Peacock. If you want to follow SmackDown, you do have cable. In Canada, Ariel, like it's all going to be Netflix
So
beginning
good for you guys, right?
next January. Like, do you see that as any kind of deal for the wrestling consumer, or do you think that it's the grand scheme of things? It's like this is an audience that up until the WWE Network, I mean, they were paying $60 a month for a pay per view.
For sure. And also here in the United States, Peacock deal is done in 2026. Wouldn't be surprised if it all goes under Netflix. And then when the USA SmackDown deal is done, wouldn't be surprised if it all goes to Netflix too. I think what's great, there's multiple things that I think is great here. Obviously, Netflix, I mean, they're just a behemoth. I think it's like 240 or so million subscribers worldwide, something like that. Something, or 270. Yeah, something crazy. Think about when they do promos, instead of saying Sportsnet in Canada and TNT in the UK. Now you could just say Netflix for the vast majority of the world, which is just gigantic. A lot of young people are on Netflix. I know this. I have two boys who are 11 and 9. They have no idea how to go onto cable and search for something, like put the source. They know how to go on Netflix. They know how to go on Apple TV. They know how to go to Peacock. They know how to do those things. They know how to go to YouTube, obviously.
One of my 3-year-old's first words was Netflix. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that. Like it's just,
this would be akin to getting like a broadcast deal 30 years ago if you're WWE with, I don't know, ABC or ESPN or NBC. You know what I mean? So this is just gigantic. And I really think it's going to make pro wrestling even bigger and more popular and cooler. And I think they're going to think outside the box. I mean, we're seeing the business that has kind of been stagnant, I think, for a while, evolve in front of our eyes. Even on Saturday, which I'm sure you noticed as well, like having the Slim Jim, stuff up there for the entire match. Did you notice that?
Oh, that's. I'm less
the cricket as well for the Universal Championship. Like that was in your face, and that's just going to be the tip of the iceberg. I thought that was like very in your face.
Yeah,
I don't mind on the mat. How do you feel about the mat?
I'm less critical of it, and maybe it's just from like if you watch Lucha, like that's such a hallmark of it, and I mean for boxing, MMA, it's just so ingrained.
AEW has DraftKings sometimes. I see
there's sponsorships. It's like to me, it's like I'm not even one that's like as affected by when the NHL is introducing more logos on jerseys. It's just kind of. It's just where the tide is going.
Sure.
So it's but it is jarring when you go from. I'm almost amazed that Vince McMahon, like that was where he put his foot down, was like clean mat. It's like this was the sanctity of professional wrestling.
I would prefer on the mat than like all around as we saw on Saturday. I would prefer that because it was just sort of in your face. On the mat reminds me of Halloween Havoc 97. Wasn't there a Slim Jim logo?
Oh, they would always put the big logo.
It actually made it feel bigger for some weird reason. I always think of that when I think of Halloween Havoc. So I don't know.
Okay, this one, I'm sure you've given some thought to this. The NBA leaves TNT. They don't have any part of the next NBA package.
This is going to be the next big one to follow in terms of like this media rights stuff. I say no. I say unlikely.
They keep a part of it.
Yeah.
April 8th. 2024. That is the Monday after WrestleMania. Roman Reigns is the undisputed WWE Universal Champion.
If this is true, I am rioting. I am going out into the parking lot at the Link. I had a big debate with New York Rick about this. He was so wrong. I said, if they don't give Cody the belt, if he doesn't win the belt, I'm going to be so upset. He should have won at 39. Sammy should have won in Montreal. Cody should have won in LA, in Inglewood. And he should win. And I feel strongly at this point that it should be Cody versus Roman. Maybe I'm too much of a mark at this point, as opposed to Roman versus Rock. But I feel more emotionally invested in Cody Roman than Rock Roman at this juncture. What do you think?
I think that there is I think the Rock match is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think not necessarily at WrestleMania, by the way. That I think there's at least a decent shot of them continuing this with Roman Reigns, at least until they get to that match with The Rock that I think they have wanted to do for so many
And he
years.
keeps the belt?
I could see it happening. Yes.
He doesn't need the belt for that match.
I
Head of the table is on
I don't
the line.
disagree. I don't disagree at all.
Tribal Chief is on the line.
I guess as you look at WrestleMania as well, how does the loss of CM Punk impact WrestleMania in a big way, little way? Or do you think they're just
it's pretty big? I think it's a huge bummer. They had two incredible men's title matches right there with great backstories, right? With long, rich histories. And you can almost like mix and match, and there was a lot of good. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. Again, you're more on the inside than I am, but I thought it was a shoo-in as of Sunday morning that it would be Punk, Seth, and the Seth one was a little weird too because of his injury, and then of course Roman, Cody. Now I have no idea what they're going to do. But can I just say I was so impressed. I was so impressed with Cody on Saturday. I was at the press conference.
Oh, think about
that guy is just unbelievable.
Consider the fact that Paul Levesque is in the role that he is in, that has had days. Like, this is the biggest scandal to hit, at least since Chris Benoit, if not larger. And the fact that, that he was, to me, so ill prepared for what were the obvious questions, as opposed to Cody, who just finished up. This is like 15 minutes after he's finishing a Royal Rumble match and has an answer. Like, I bet you that was just him off the top of his head responding and came off so much better.
Good. He's so well spoken. He is. I mean, you look at him and you're like, that should be the face of the company. The way he dresses, the way he acts, the way he wrestles, the way he interacts with people. It's so impressive. Also, one little thing that I think like us weirdos would like, I love that he knows all the journalists and says their names. Like Nick Hausman says his question. He's like, I know who you are. When he introduces himself, like, it's just, he's so good. And I'm not saying he's doing it in a sort of like, conniving way. Yeah. Every time I see him, he's always so nice. He makes everyone in the room. He goes up to every single person in the crew, shakes their hand. I can't say enough good things about that guy. And I would love to see him. And then he gets emotional talking about this. Like, it means so much to him, right? When's the last time a title win meant so much to someone? Probably Kofi in 2019 or Daniel Bryan the year before, whenever it was. And that's ultimately what we want. That was the argument I had when you're quick. He's like, the belts don't mean anything. I'm like, you're if you have come to the conclusion that the belts don't mean anything, then none of this matters. There's a reason why Roman has held on to the belt. There's a reason why Gunther holds on to the belt. It's because they've tried to reestablish the belts. And I think for the most part, they've done a good job with that. They did a good job with the Usos. The belt means everything. It has to mean everything. And it means everything to him. So that's why I just want to see it for him.
Let's continue on here. So you're going unlikely on Roman Reigns being champion Monday after WrestleMania.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
AEW signs a broadcast agreement outside of WBD. So not to say all of their programming leaves WBD, but at least a program of theirs, whether it is Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, is in a non-WBD broadcast agreement.
Does that include Ring of Honor?
Yes, I'll put Ring of Honor in that umbrella too.
That makes so if it didn't include Ring of Honor, I would have said no. Ring of Honor makes it a little bit, or unlikely. Ring of Honor makes it a little bit murky. I'm still going to say unlikely. Is there too much AEW on TV? Do they need that Saturday show?
I think it's a lot for people to keep up with. I think it's a factor, but I think there's a lot. WWE's been very hot. And I think that has made AEW less of a priority for some that have just like, look at the amount of product. It's so much to keep up with. I wouldn't compare. I would say AEW is much stronger than I think Bellator would have ever been.
Not even close.
I mean, it was the same strategy though, that like UFC gave you so much that there was no demand for something different. People were happy with the UFC product. The difference was WWE was giving people a product that they were craving something different. Now you are getting something different, but it's from WWE itself compared to where they were several years ago.
I just wish they could streamline it a little bit so that there's less hours, but more stacked shows. Especially when you're going up against Royal Rumble, that's just tough.
Yeah, you knew it was going to be a rough Saturday, and it was for them. Kazuchika Okada joins the WWE.
That's the big one. You guys are very excited about him, huh?
Well, his contract is up with New Japan tomorrow as we
Wow.
record this. And he is doing 3 more matches in New Japan throughout February. So he is working without a contract for the next couple of weeks, but then he will ultimately
Is he
make
top 5 in the world right now, in your opinion?
Yes, I would say so.
And
but it's going to be if he goes to WWE, like it's a very interesting transition to see how he will transfer over, becoming like a week-to-week television performer. There's a lot more questions in a WWE environment, but also at a time where they're much more open-minded to, like, if this were 5 years ago, I would think Okada going to WWE would be, you would be looking at this as a very questionable move beyond a financial security.
Well, you know what I always say, never bet against the con. And we all know there's only one con in this business.
Oh my gosh.
I'll say likely.
Okay, likely. Head-to-head programming between WWE and AEW returns.
When you say returns, is it just like a one-off or is it consistent?
No, a consistent time slot where they are going head-to-head. Including if it's on a streamer, but same time, live programming.
Unlikely. AEW shouldn't do that, in my opinion. Now, this time next year, is Raw on Mondays?
We're not there yet.
Come on. I thought this was the MMA Prediction Show. I have to. All our questions so far have been about wrestling. You're trying to expose
we're
me
building up to MMA.
as
there's
a
theme here.
Helwani.
We go outside. We're going into wrestling.
Sorry, I'm getting a number here from a 203.
It's spam.
Okay.
Now, why don't you pick it up?
That was a joke.
Okay. TKO branches into boxing.
This year, huh? I feel I have no inside info on this, but I just feel like it's inevitable for so many reasons. Does it happen this year? I think next year, 25. Okay. So unlikely.
An extension of UFC's domestic rights agreement with ESPN is announced. So the deal's up end of 2025. So this would be they're not going to take these to the market. Deal signed before the end of the year.
Unlikely.
3 title fights go the distance at UFC 300.
It's very possible. We don't even have all the title fights at this point.
No, we have officially 2 title fights.
I mean, if you're asking me, we have 1. I mean, we're including the BMF title,
but it's a 5-round fight. So
yes, I mean, come on. How do we start? I'll say unlikely.
Francis Ngannou has a rematch with Tyson Fury.
Ooh,
so a lot has to happen here.
Yeah, this year,
2024.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Doesn't you know what? I'm going to say likely.
Next one here. We always ask a UFC Hall of Fame question. Kimbo Slice is inducted.
I would love that. Gosh, that's such a good one. I hear nothing about this, but that would be so great. Oh, that would be so great. I would love that. I'm going to say likely just because I want it to happen and I love it so much.
Okay. Likely.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that
I thought of it. I was like, that would be
I just got like a warm, fuzzy feeling throughout my whole body. Like, I love Kimbo.
Like such a important figure in MMA history. And
gigantic. I miss him.
Yeah, it's so crazy how you think of like 2008 and it's like the Stone Age when it comes to like the turnover of audiences and such, that like how many current fans are aware of a Kimbo Slice
on CBS, even a Gina Carano, who was gigantic at that point, right?
Maybe Kelly Call inducts.
That'd be nice. No, it's got to be Icy Mike. It's got to be his guy.
Oh, it would have to be. Did you ever get one of his business cards? That was
it was incredible. It was it's like almost like a platinum card, but it was like that thick, you know?
Yes.
Incredible.
Ariel Helwani is written about by name in Ronda Rousey's upcoming book, Our Fight, that hits bookstores April 2nd. Written with
I hope not.
Maria Burns Ortiz.
You know how I learned that she's writing a new book from you and Way? I was listening to you guys when you were talking about her tweet and, you know, now the increased interest in the book. Can I just say the first Ronda Rousey book is one of the best athlete or fighter books that I've ever read. And you hit the nail on the head. It's because her sister was the ghostwriter. Her sister's a journalist.
Yeah.
So A, obviously she knows how to write, but B, she lived through those same things. So as opposed to someone just telling some random person the stories, I just felt like it made it such a better read. And so I think this will be great. This is just about her wrestling days.
I think it's going to, well, it'll be, because that book came out before the Holly Holm loss
yeah.
and everything.
That's
Like,
interesting.
how do you not cover
Yeah,
the
you
end
gotta,
of that chapter? Which will be fascinating to get into her head, and
if she
like
talks
if she
about it.
reflects differently now, all these years removed, or like it was a very unceremonious end to her MMA tenure. But yeah, like certainly now the fact that this that she was so public about with that tweet, it does make you curious
Yeah.
to see, like, she was like in the midst of all of this as these allegations are coming out against Vince McMahon, and I think it's definitely put a lot more of a spotlight on this book.
Does she ever wrestle again for WWE?
I'm definitely not shutting that door. No.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I say no. I say unlikely about my name.
Okay.
I had a great interaction with her in Montreal backstage among the many. I could write a whole book on that weekend. Look at your face. See, if you wouldn't have crapped on me, I could have told you all these things. It was one of the highlights, honestly. It was so surreal, the interaction.
When you were recounting what I had said, did you assign the British monarchy voice to me?
Oh, yeah, you and everyone else.
Sadiq Yusuf works a show as an ESPN analyst on the desk.
That's a great one. I would love to see it. Him and Hanato Moicano. Can we get them on there?
Oh my goodness.
Moicano is the man. Wow, what a revelation he's been.
I love his videos. They're just
so good.
There's very few MMA related videos that I'll send away, but that was on the list. I was like, you would enjoy this guy a lot.
He's so good. I'm going to say unlikely, but happy to hear that he is, some of these I want to root for, right? Like I want them to happen, like Kimbo, but I'll say, I just don't think it happens. But happy to see that he's on 300. That's cool for him.
Scott Coker joins Ryzen.
That's a great one. I'll say unlikely.
Scott Coker joins one championship.
Huh. Unlikely.
Okay.
Ryzen was a tough one. That is not a tough one.
Okay, not as tough. Kayla Harrison fights twice in the UFC bantamweight division.
Likely.
Okay. Max Holloway has one fight at featherweight this year in the UFC. So he's got the 155 fight with Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
Does have a turnaround and fights at 145.
Likely.
Okay. Rob Dwalishvili fights for the bantamweight title. Doesn't
Likely.
have to win it, just challenges for it.
Likely. Again, if he wins, if he beats Henry Cejudo and doesn't get a title shot, we riot. Shout out to Hammerstein Ballroom.
Nate Diaz fights for the UFC.
Fights for the promotion.
Yes, in a UFC octagon.
Unlikely.
Juliana Pena fights Kayla Harrison.
Ooh.
A few outcomes have to occur here.
Yeah. So let's say Juliana fights Raquel in June. Let's say June.
Yeah.
June or August. It's not happening. No, it's not going to happen in International Fight Week, but in that time frame. And then Kayla fights in April, and then Juliana has to win, and then I guess Kayla's
got to be one win tops before they're putting her into the fight.
I'll say likely.
I'm very high on this signing of Kayla Harrison.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I think it's like, to me,
it
was a rabbit in the hat if there ever was one. Yeah,
I agree. People are saying that she went and took the easier fights. What? Are you crazy? First of all, just cutting to 135 is absurd. You know what I mean? That in itself, she could have just stayed in PFL, fought Cyborg, fought Pacheco, fought Leah McCourt, and just stayed at 145 and been fine. She's not going 10 pounds lighter.
Like the weigh-ins are going to be as
must see TV.
Like that's going to be the story of that fight. And if she can make it, I never know what to think of these situations. Like on the surface, it sounds frightening to her to make 135. But I thought the same with Jose Aldo when I saw this guy just near death making 145, and here he goes down
He
to
looked awful
bantamweight.
for his debut, but then he figured it out.
John Jones fights Stipe Miocic. We get this fight at some point in 2024.
Likely.
Conor McGregor fights, period.
Wow. That's it? That's an easy one. Yes, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Okay.
Likely. God, how depressing would that be if it doesn't happen?
Okay, last fight scenario. Israel Adesanya fights Alex Pereira one more time. Any weight class, they fight one more time.
This year?
Yes.
Unlikely.
Conor McGregor makes one retirement announcement.
Unlikely.
Neil Magny, who got a fight in January, right at the start of the year, fights 4 times in 2024.
That's a possible one for sure. Man, I'll say unlikely just because I feel like he'll get 3 and there's so many guys on the roster, but very possible.
Same scenario as I threw out to you last year. We'll try it again this year. Bo Nickel goes undefeated.
Likely.
Bilal Muhammad fights for the welterweight title.
Likely. When? TBD.
Okay, but does happen. 2020.
Yeah, and he should. He should.
There's a wide landing spot for him to get this title fight.
Yes.
UFC puts a title fight on the June 22nd fight night card in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, because they want to beef it up.
Was there ever a better redemption press release than what came out last week? I mean,
I still think that they would say that I was wrong. I'm happy you read it that way.
I don't know how else you could read it. Like,
I thought it was right. Even by Dana's response, I thought it was right. He's saying like, no, I chose to change it. Let me ask you, when do they ever do that? Oh, no, I want to make it better. So I'm going to, oh yeah, UFC, blah, blah, blah. Toronto. Did they say, this card isn't good enough for Toronto? No, of course not. Anyway, title fight. The thing is, it would have to be someone that would mean something for that region, right? Are they putting Islam there a week before Conor on free TV? And then maybe Khamzat.
It's a $20 million card.
I know. I can't believe it's not a pay-per-view, to be honest.
It is strange timing that they're putting it right before June 29th. But I mean, that's obviously the date that they're going with. I mean, this is.
I'm going to say likely only because I can't count out the great Turki Al-Sheikh, His Excellency.
WWE and UFC promote a dual pay-per-view weekend in one location, either domestic or internationally.
So like Saturday and Sunday type of thing?
Yeah, a pay-per-view combo weekend.
I'm going to say unlikely.
Tom Aspinall becomes the official heavyweight champion by the end of 2024.
I'm going to say just short of unlikely, because let's say John comes back in the fall because he just had this second surgery. He's not going to fight again. You know what I mean? If he wins. I guess the only saving grace would be if one of them retires and then he just becomes.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'll still say unlikely, which is crazy.
Just a few more here.
I feel like I'm gonna go like 0 for 30 here, whatever it is. I don't like any of my answers.
Well, I mean, I can't see the future, so I can't.
Sure.
You. The UFC antitrust trial begins on April 15th.
I say likely.
Mm-hmm. You don't see any last minute settlement or anything that doesn't get them to actually in court.
I feel like they've come so far. I don't know if the
other
side,
9-year mark.
Yeah,
this is wild.
It is crazy. I can't believe that they've reached this point. Well done.
Don Davis invests in Fight Matrix. Had you ever heard of Fight Matrix before? Don Davis has been their greatest ambassador. Okay.
No, I honestly hope that he owns it because he's put them on the map. I hope he's like a secret investor. By the way, is it Matrix or Metric? Like, I know there's a fight Metric. I just sometimes wonder if he's mispronouncing it. I've never even gone as far as to look it up.
No, I did before we did this to confirm. There is a fight Matrix
With an X, right?
Yes, with
Yeah.
an X. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the question?
Does he buy a stake in Fight Matrix?
Oh, I'm going to say
Might be a
owns...
conflict of interest. I mean, he wants his
Yeah.
independent ranking, so maybe not.
I'll say unlikely.
Eddie Hearn appears on the MMA Hour more than 6 times, which was his
What a
number
great guess.
in 2023. He's already at 1.
How many in 23?
You had him 6 times last year.
Oh, is he a bad guess?
No, I think
You're not a
he's fine.
huge boxing guy, right?
I'm not as focused on it, but I typically always listen to the Eddie Hearn interviews. He's a good guest. He's like,
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's at the PI today. 6 times, more than 6. I'll say unlikely.
What's he doing at the PI today?
They're promoting. Well, I think so. Actually, to be honest, he's like super into fitness now. But they have a show in Vegas on Saturday, so I think he's just there. He's got a good relationship with them. He's been there before. He took a picture with Dana one time.
The last one.
Okay,
We're at the end of the road. With the word coming under such scrutiny by its fan base, UFC decides to rename its shoulder program, currently titled UFC Unleashed.
that is a great one. By the way, does Unleashed still exist?
It does. I had to look it up. It's still it's
Oh.
running on Sportsnet up here, and I think international markets.
That is so. I totally forgot about that. How did you come to that one? How did, like, tell me the how the sausage was made on that one?
I mean, it came to me during the week that I was getting this, and I remembered, I was like, wait a minute. I was like thinking in my head, I'm like, wasn't there a pay-per-view named UFC Unleashed? And then I remember, no, there's a damn program because it comes on up here in Canada called UFC Unleashed. And I just found that one to be amusing.
Wow. That is so good. You remember there was a time where the countdown shows in Unleashed would get like 1 million viewers on Spike? Legitimately.
Oh, they were huge at the beginning.
Yeah.
I remember when those started. They were like,
it was must-see TV.
They were before 24/7. Like, they were pretty state-of-the-art at the beginning.
I remember watching those, and I'm not even talking about the prime times. The prime times were exciting. Was like the 3-part ones. I worked on GSP Penn, but like even the countdown to UFC 90, countdown to this, that was must-see TV.
I think Rich Franklin Anderson Silva might have been the first one. I think for their maybe their
67.
first fight. Like incredible. Like they were. You kind of just take these programs like for granted now, but at that time, like they were eye-opening in terms of the production value and the prime time with BJ Penn. He's right there on screen threatening to kill George St. Pierre.
So good. Yeah. So wait, what was the question? Are they going to rename it?
They rename the program.
No, unlikely.
All right. Well, there is the list, but over the years, I've come up with some bonus games. Okay. This will be short. In the past we have played blue versus green regarding iPhone users versus text messengers.
Oh, yes,
of your
fun.
Rolodex.
Yes, I forgot about this. Wow.
Last year we did naughty or nice based on your relationships with several figures in the industry. This year we're going to play a game that is called Confirm or Deny. So I am going to read you a series of headlines, and you're going to tell me if in the past year this was a real headline that was written or is made up. Okay. Now, several of these are specific to you, and by some I mean a lot.
Oh, geez.
Let's start off. Ariel Helwani threatens to step down from the MMA Hour over lackluster lineup of guest criticism.
And so I just say confirm or deny.
Confirm or deny.
Deny.
Real headline. That was a real headline. Now, I'm not saying you said this. I'm saying there was a headline out there.
There was?
Existed. Oh, yes.
Wait, am I saying that this is going to happen or not, or if this is a thing that happened?
That these headlines exist, that they're real headlines.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yes. I should have explained this more clear.
Okay. That's crazy. Okay. Did I? Yeah, maybe. Do you know the outlet?
It was, I believe, Sportskeeda.
Yes, my good friend.
You tweeted out, it was something to the effect of, I usually don't respond to these, but this is what makes me not want to do this show ever. By the way, I've also got Dustin Poirier tomorrow. Hope that it makes it good enough.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, you punched back at this, but this is a real headline. Okay. So Yeah, if
Okay.
you hear a headline that you don't think was real,
Sorry,
then
screwed
just
that up. Got it.
Ariel Helwani claps back at fighter. Quote, "You're a middleweight joke in a heavyweight argument."
No, deny.
That one I made up. Ariel Helwani responds to UFC fighter Jamal Hill. "You swung and you missed."
I'll say confirm.
That was a real headline. Yeah. MMA reporter seen dining with Kevin Owens at Notre Boeuf de Grasse.
That'd be great. But deny. Didn't happen. We did, by the way, we did have a nice chat. You see, again, another great thing that happened in Montreal. A very nice chat. Much happened.
You've made nice.
Yeah.
Pimblett invests in sunscreen after catching that smoke.
I'll say deny.
Not a real headline.
But we're good. We're fine now. There's no problem.
All right. The hatchet has been buried.
Yes.
UFC 300. Ariel Helwani defends Dana White amid criticism.
Yes. I saw that one.
Real
How about
headline.
that? Yeah.
This is what it means to be friends. Ariel Helwani ends feud with Chael Sonnen after explosive interview fight.
I think so.
That's a real headline.
Yeah.
That was from Sportskeeda. For sure.
Yes. Love it.
Ariel Helwani is the most dangerous man in MMA.
Hey, by the way, that not only is that real, and a totally ridiculous headline. It's even in my headline. It's in my bio on I think it's definitely Instagram, maybe Twitter too, but definitely Instagram.
I did not know this. This was the Globe and Mail headline on you.
Yeah.
The most dangerous man in
ridiculous
MMA.
Headline. Absolutely. When I saw it, I was like, oh, what is this? But honestly, I don't know if I've I couldn't believe that the Globe and Mail cared. And that the reporter, who I'm ashamed to say name escapes me at the moment, did such a great job. I really liked the article, and I was proud of it because it's Canada and all that stuff. But yes, it's a ridiculous headline.
The writers don't often come up with the headline either.
No, of course not. I mean, it's just I get what they were doing, but it's still ridiculous.
I love that one. Last one. Today on the MMA Hour, Sean McCorkle.
That's it. I sometimes hear from him from time to time, but I don't know. You know, we were talking about bringing back the Mitrione and McCorkle minute. I don't even know if any fan, like what percentage of the fans listening to the show will even know who those guys are. It's a sad state of affairs.
Well, this was not a real headline in 2023.
No.
No Sean McCorkle on the MMA Hour. There you go. Did you like this this game?
I liked it. Yeah, sorry. I feel bad that I was
No. You
I botched it. Also, I'm shocked. So we're done. That's it.
Those are the headlines. Yeah.
Wow. I was waiting for Ariel Helwani will appear on SmackDown or Raw or something like that. Nothing, huh?
Yeah,
you stayed away from it.
I didn't go to the wrestling particulars on that one. I mean, to be quite fair, like I looked, there wasn't a whole lot of like headlines for it. So I think a lot of your dissent was Twitter based. That would be my guess.
Oh, sure. No, I for the unlikely likely.
Oh, for the likely unlikelies. I mean,
felt like a layup, but I'm not going to answer it now.
I'm shut. I exhausted all my scenarios for 2024. Right.
We'll see. Yeah. Well, by the way, what about TNA, huh? I feel like they're enjoying a renaissance.
They just had a really big pay-per-view of late. They've rebranded. I mean, it's been a very good product for a number of years. It's just on a station in Access TV that few get. And there's just so much wrestling that it's kind of just it's WWE, AEW, and everyone else fighting for attention. But they've carved out a bit. The Jordan Grace cameo was fantastic in the Rumble. Like that was great for them.
Nick Nemeth showing up, Mustafa Ali showing up. It feels like they're the place where people just go to. You know, Naomi seemed to have a good time there. I don't know. I mean, I thought that they were pretty much.
Their booking is very consistent. It's it's a great place to go if you just if you're at a place in your career like it is like it's a great outlet. Like it's honestly like
where is it on in is it Fight Network?
It's Fight Network up here in Canada, yeah, and Game TV, which is also attached to the same.
How many books did you read in 23?
It was 52. I got
Incredible.
52. That was the
Did you
final number.
read the Eric Bischoff book? Grateful.
I didn't. No, you did though.
I did, and I
Mhm.
read it on vacation. And there's a huge, honestly, this was kind of in my period where I wasn't following wrestling so much. I didn't realize how much he had done with TNA and with his son and everything.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, for someone like you, I don't know if you try to stay away from the wrestling books. Like I don't really seek MMA books and things of that nature, but it was kind of a fascinating read from that point of view, because I didn't really experience any of it, and his thoughts on the name and the company and Dixie and all that stuff was pretty fun. So if you're looking for a nice, very very easy, like it's just I tore through it. It was really interesting, and to read that and now see like this sort of renaissance that they're having with the rebrand and how people are feeling about them and signing some free agents. Good for them. The more, the merrier.
The author Guy Evans, he did a book called
Nitro.
Nitro. Did
Yeah.
you happen to see
I
that one?
have it. I
It's a
have it.
really
And I
great,
started it. It's
like, deep
gigantic.
dive
Jeez
into. Oh
Louise.
yeah. It's a lengthy read. Like it's all kind of like the business dealings of WCW.
I'm actually currently reading that and another book that's right over there called Prehistoric, on the early days, on how the Raptors were born. Like the
Oh,
real, like early, like how they won the bid, like all like the business, how they came up with the name, by a Toronto sports writer or personality called Alex Wong. I think he worked for a sports. It's actually a really
oh.
great read as
I'll
well.
check that one out. That sounds really
Yeah,
interesting.
it's really good. I really am enjoying it.
Well, Ariel, we have come to the end of an entertaining edition of the MMA
This was
Prediction
fun. I
Show.
think we
Yeah.
got a lot out there. We're back. No invites throughout the year, podcast day, this, that, and the other, Christmas special. But here we are. We're back. And look, I was watching from afar. I was wondering, I was judging, but I'm happy we're back, and I appreciate you guys. And what a week for you guys. I mean, obviously not the best content, but just from like the Netflix stuff all the way to just so much that you had to cover, such a wide spectrum. You and Brandon do a great job. You and Wade do a great job. So keep it up. I'm happy to see you guys thriving.
I'm glad that we got to do this, and if nothing else, I hope people can learn that people can agree, disagree, but I think you and I we always have respect for one another, and
Amen.
I hope you are very clear on that fact from
Amen, for
my
sure.
side, and I'll always have it for you.
Amen. Same here.
Well, everybody, we can now officially start 2024, and I think the only way that we can end this show is by wishing everyone a happy new year.
New Year's.